Welcome to Moonlight Story, a quiet place where you can rest and gently drift into sleep. Take a moment to get comfortable. There is nothing you need to do right now. No thoughts to follow, no plans to make. Just a slow breath in and a gentle breath out. Let your body soften and allow yourself to rest. Now, settle into a comfortable position. Take a slow breath in and let it go gently. Again, a calm breath in and an easy breath out. Imagine a quiet morning just beginning. Soft light rests against the walls of a small room and the air feels still. On a table nearby, a few simple things have been placed together. A light cloth, a small pair of garden scissors, a bottle of water. You gather them slowly, placing each one into a small bag. Nothing heavy. Nothing unnecessary. Just what you might need for a quiet morning. When you lift the bag, it feels light in your hand. You step outside. The air is fresh, carrying a faint warmth from the early sun. A narrow path stretches ahead, leading through a calm open space. As you begin to walk, your steps fall into a slow, steady rhythm. The ground beneath your feet feels firm and familiar. There is no hurry. Only the gentle movement forward. In the distance, something begins to catch the light. A structure made almost entirely of glass. Soft reflections shift across its surface as the morning grows brighter. As you walk closer, the shape becomes clearer. A greenhouse. Still and quiet, resting gently in the open space. You reach the door and pause for a moment. Through the glass, you can see the faint outline of leaves and stems inside, softened by the light. The air feels slightly warmer near the entrance. You reach out and open the door. A gentle wave of warmth meets you. Soft, calm, carrying the quiet scent of soil and green leaves. You step inside, and the day in the greenhouse begins. Mary steps inside and lets the door close softly behind her. The air feels warmer here, gently held within the glass walls. There's a faint scent of soil and fresh leaves, quiet and steady. For a moment, she stands still. Light filters through the panels above, falling in soft patterns across the narrow paths and rows of plants. Nothing feels crowded. Everything has space to grow. She sets her bag down on a small wooden table near the entrance and opens it, taking out the cloth and scissors before placing them neatly beside each other. Then she begins to walk slowly through the greenhouse. On one side, small pots of basil and mint sit in even rows, their leaves full and soft, carrying a light, fresh scent. She pauses beside them, brushing her fingers lightly over the tops of the leaves. They bend gently, then settle back into place. A little further along, a row of tomato plants stretches upward, supported by thin wooden stakes. A few tomatoes have begun to turn a deeper shade, their color slowly changing as they ripen. Mary reaches out and adjusts one of the ties, making sure the stem rests comfortably against the support. On the other side, a cluster of ferns fills the corner, their leaves layered and quiet, spreading outward in soft patterns. She moves past them slowly, taking in the way they shift slightly with the air. The greenhouse holds a steady calm. Light, warmth, and stillness resting together. Mary continues along the path, her steps unhurried, her movements small and careful. And as she moves deeper into the space, the day begins to settle into its quiet rhythm. Mary returns to the table and lifts the small watering can, filling it slowly from a nearby container. The water settles with a soft, steady sound. She carries it carefully back along the narrow path. Starting at the first row, she tilts the can gently. A thin stream of water falls onto the soil beneath the basil plants, darkening the surface in small, even circles. She moves from one pot to the next, keeping the same slow rhythm. The scent of the leaves lifts slightly as the water settles in. Nearby, the mint leaves catch a few drops, holding them for a moment before they slide down and disappear into the soil. Mary pauses to touch one of the leaves lightly, then continues. Further along, she reaches the tomato plants. The stems are steady, supported by their ties. She waters the base of each plant, letting the soil absorb it slowly. One of the leaves has gathered a thin layer of dust. She takes the cloth and gently wipes it clean, moving carefully so the stem stays undisturbed. The leaf settles back, smooth and still. She adjusts a pot slightly, turning it just enough so it faces the light more evenly. The change is small, but it feels right. In the corner, the ferns spread outward in quiet layers. Mary waters them last, letting the water fall a little more lightly across the soil. A few droplets catch along the edges of the leaves, resting there before slipping down. The greenhouse remains calm around her. Only the soft sound of water, the quiet shift of leaves, and her slow, steady movements. She sets the watering can down and steps back slightly. Everything feels settled, and the gentle rhythm of the day continues, one small task at a time. Mary moves back along the row of tomato plants, this time without the watering can. Her steps are slower now, more deliberate, as if she's simply taking in what has changed. The light has shifted slightly since earlier. It falls more directly across the plants, resting on the leaves and the clusters beneath them. She pauses beside the first plant. A few tomatoes hang low, their color deeper than before, no longer pale or uneven. She reaches out and steadies one gently between her fingers, turning it just slightly, feeling the smoothness of its surface. It comes away easily when she twists it, the stem releasing without resistance. She holds it for a moment before placing it into her bag, setting it carefully so it doesn't press against anything else. Instead, she takes a small step forward, letting her eyes move over the plant again. There are still others left. Some not ready yet. Some still holding on to their lighter shade. She leaves them as they are. At the next plant, she repeats the same movement. Reaching, turning, a soft twist. Another tomato, slightly smaller this time. It rests in her palm before joining the first. The rhythm builds quietly, one at a time, never more than needed. As she continues down the row, her pace remains steady. Occasionally, she adjusts a leaf that has folded inward, letting it rest more openly toward the light. A thin tie has loosened slightly along one stem. She tightens it just enough to support the plant, not pulling it too close. Everything remains gentle. Nothing forced. When she reaches the end of the row, she pauses again. The bag at her side now holds only a small amount, just enough for a simple meal. She turns toward the herbs. The basil sits in neat rows, its leaves fuller than before. Some of the stems have grown slightly taller, their tops branching outward. Mary crouches slightly beside them. She doesn't take from the base. Instead, she moves to the top of the plant, where the new growth has formed. Pinching just above a pair of leaves, she removes a small section. The movement is quick but careful. She places it into her bag, then moves to the next. Again, not taking too much, just enough to keep the plant growing well. The scent rises softly as she works. Fresh, light, familiar. She pauses for a moment, her hand resting lightly against the edge of one of the pots. Then continues. The mint spreads more loosely, its stems reaching outward in different directions. She takes the small scissors this time, cutting a few sprigs cleanly. Each cut is quiet, barely noticeable. She gathers them together and places them with the basil. For a moment, she remains there, crouched among the plants, not moving, just looking. Then something small catches her attention. Near the base of one of the pots, close to the soil, a tiny sprout has emerged. It's barely there. A thin, green line pushing upward. She leans in slightly, resting her hand on the edge of the pot. She doesn't touch it, doesn't adjust the soil, just watches. The light reaches it in a narrow line through the glass above. After a moment, she shifts her weight and stands again. The greenhouse remains quiet around her. Nothing has changed in a noticeable way. And yet, everything feels slightly different. Settled, grown, moving forward in its own quiet way. Mary lifts her bag gently and continues along the path, her steps slow and steady. And the day carries on just as calmly as before. Mary moves slowly toward the section of the greenhouse where the flowering plants rest. The air feels slightly lighter here. A faint hint of sweetness lingers, different from the earthy scent near the herbs. She sets her bag down beside a low wooden bench and takes a moment before doing anything. The light has softened a little more now. It filters through the glass in longer, quieter stretches, settling gently across the leaves and petals. In front of her, a few rows of flowers grow in simple clay pots. Some are small and just beginning to open. Others have already reached full bloom, their petals spread wide in stillness. Mary steps closer, her movements slow even further here. She looks over each plant before reaching for anything. A few marigolds sit near the edge, their warm color steady and full. She reaches toward one, holding the stem lightly between her fingers. For a moment, she doesn't pick it, just turns it slightly, noticing the shape of the petals, the way they fold inward and outward at the same time. Then, with a small, careful motion, she removes it. The stem separates easily. She places it gently beside her bag. She doesn't take another right away. Instead, she moves a step further. A cluster of jasmine rests nearby, smaller and softer, their white petals barely open. She leans in slightly. The scent is faint, almost hidden. She selects one, then another, spacing them out, leaving most untouched. Each flower is chosen slowly, not for arrangement, not for perfection, just enough. After a while, she steps back and looks at what she's gathered. A small handful. Nothing more. She places them carefully inside her bag, separate from the herbs and vegetables, making sure they aren't pressed. The greenhouse remains quiet around her. The earlier rhythm of movement has softened. There is less to do now. More space between each action. Mary sits down on the wooden bench. The surface is cool beneath her, steady and familiar. She rests her hands lightly in her lap. For a while, she doesn't move. The light continues to shift slowly across the glass above, creating faint patterns that move across the floor and the leaves. Somewhere nearby, a single drop of water falls from the edge of a leaf. Then another, a little further away. The sound is soft, spaced out, almost blending into the stillness. Mary leans back slightly, her gaze moving through the greenhouse without focusing on anything in particular. The rows of plants remain as they are. Nothing needs to be adjusted. Nothing needs attention. Everything has been taken care of. Time passes quietly here, not in a way that feels noticeable. Just a gentle slowing. After a while, Mary rises from the bench. She picks up her bag again, holding it carefully. Her movements remain slow, unhurried, as she takes one last look around the greenhouse. The plants rest in their places. The air remains warm and still. And the day begins to settle toward its quiet close. Mary stands for a moment near the center of the greenhouse, holding her bag lightly at her side. The space feels quieter now. Not empty, just settled. Most of the movement from earlier has slowed. The leaves rest where they are. The soil has absorbed the water. Nothing more needs to be done. She walks slowly back along the path, following the same route she took earlier. This time, she doesn't stop at each plant. She just looks as she passes. The basil and mint sit undisturbed, their leaves still and full. The tomato plants stand supported, a few remaining fruits hanging quietly where she left them. The ferns spread outward in their corner, unchanged. Everything feels in place. As she reaches the table near the entrance, she sets her bag down and looks around once more. A few small things remain. She folds the cloth and places it neatly beside the scissors. The watering can is returned to its spot. Nothing is left out. Nothing unfinished. Mary moves toward the door and pauses with her hand resting lightly against it. The air inside still holds its warmth, a soft contrast to the cooler air waiting outside. She opens the door slowly. A faint breeze passes through, moving gently across the nearest leaves before settling again. She steps out. The ground outside feels firmer beneath her feet. The light has softened, no longer bright, just even and quiet. She turns back for a moment. Through the glass, the greenhouse looks the same as before. Still, calm, holding everything inside it. Mary closes the door gently, making sure it rests in place. The sound is soft, barely noticeable. She adjusts the strap of her bag and begins to walk back along the path. Her steps fall into a slow, steady rhythm. Nothing feels rushed. The day has already come to its natural end. And as she walks away, the greenhouse remains behind her, quiet and unchanged, continuing in its own steady way.